You can't rely on a God you never trusted. And that's the sad reality for so many Christians right now, is that for all of their talk, as they may talk, about trusting in the Lord, they don't actually do it. They don't do it because they are living according to the principles of the world, the ideals of the world, the wisdom of the world, and using all of its institutions, even those things that are contrary to the way that the New Testament teaches Christians to live. So, you know, if you don't trust God, you can't rely on him. Don't kid yourself into thinking that you can, because you can't. And if you haven't been doing that, don't think that in your hour of greatest need, you're suddenly going to change and you're going to be able to rely on a God whom you've never tested and whom you've never trusted. Why? Because you were trusting in yourself, and you were trusting in money, and you were trusting in the things that God gave you and not in the one who gave them to you. The world is designed to be sufficient without God. The New Testament is written to require you to rely and be dependent upon God. So for all those, Christian advisors, Christian financial advisors, how ludicrous is that? Christian financial advisor. I got your Christian financial advisor. It's called the New Testament. You don't need another. You need that, and you need the faith that God gives you personally in terms of how to use the money that he gives you. So you can't rely on somebody who you're constantly using other things as a substitute for. Trusting in the Lord, and you've got an auxiliary freezer stockpiled with food in your garage, and you've got a pantry stockpiled with various other household products and goods from Sam's Club, from Costco. You got the Sloman shield in front of your house. I'm failing to see where the trusting in God is coming in. You're trusting in your life insurance and your health insurance and your car insurance and every other kind of insurance. God is my insurance. He's the only insurance I have, and I mean that quite literally. I'm just fine and well. Christians are mistaken into thinking that they need to live the way that the world lives, and that they need to have what the world has. And that's simply not true. The Christian life is very different, and in a lot of cases, completely opposite to the way that the world lives and teaches people to live. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians are not living the Christian life, but they're living the unchristian life. They're living the life of people who do not have God, who are relying on themselves and relying on what they have and on other people. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you have something that you don't have. Just like it says in James, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Well, this is one example of deception that's going to cost a lot of people. Not long from now, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you have no one to rely upon except God. And all the stuff that you have relied on is taken from you, and you're left with the person whom you've never relied upon. Now, how's that going to work out? It's like a man who spends his time sitting in front of the TV, watching sports, or, watching a marathon, and he says to himself, I could do that if I really tried. He's sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and Doritos, overweight, flabby, never walked more than a block in his life. He's relying on muscles he doesn't have. And he thinks to himself, I could do what they do if I really put my mind to it. Brother, you can't. You cannot rely on muscles that you haven't used. And the New Testament is intentional in the commands that are given to Christians, and the faith that God gives Christians is specific. It has a purpose. It's purposeful in requiring them to rely on God. If you disregard those things that are scary to you and that cost you something, the consequence is that you're not going to have what God intends for Christians to have, which is confidence in Him. And you'll say that, well, I'll do this, but not that, because, you know, I don't trust God enough, and I want things a certain way, and if I do this, then I'm not guaranteed to have what I want. Well, you have to settle it in your mind that what God wants for you is better than what you want for yourself. Because He's your God, and you live for Him. You don't live for yourself. There are no guarantees that a Christian is going to live a long life, that he or she is going to be in good health, that he or she is going to be wealthy, that he or she is even going to be comfortable or even well treated. No guarantees of that at all. So if you think that those things are guarantees, then you're going to be looking for all kinds of ways to get those things when it's not necessarily God's will for you to have them. But He will take care of you. And it may not be the way that you would like Him to take care of you, but He'll take care of you according to what's best for you. What's best for your flesh is not always what's best for your spirit. And God is taking care of you and not just your flesh. Because this is temporary. This is not you. God is taking care of you if you allow Him to take care of you. Now, if you don't, you just choose to live the way that the rest of the world lives, then you're going to suffer in your relationship with the Lord. Even if you don't recognize that you're suffering loss. By putting your trust in everything else, you're not seeing God do in your life the things that He is able to do and would do if you actually trusted and obeyed Him, like that old song goes. Which I don't think most of us could sing today without just lying to God in song. It's a good song, but it's only good if it's true. Don't open your mouth to sing it if it's a lie. God doesn't like sung lies any more than He likes spoken ones or prayed ones. But it is the truth. The teachings of the New Testament are designed to keep you from relying on yourself and to teach you to rely upon God and to be submissive to His will. To be submitted to His will, to see Him work for you. And if you choose to disregard God's ways and His will, you know, the way that He intends for you to live, the lot that He's chosen for you, then you can have a comfortable life and you can have all sorts of things that non-Christians have, but what you won't have is the God of the Bible as you want to have. You're not going to see Him do the things that He's done for the saints in the Bible. I mean, let's be honest. I think probably most Christians, when they read the Bible, it seems like two different gods. There's the God of the Bible, and then there's the God of our reality, of our everyday life. And He's not the same. He's not the same person. He doesn't do that sort of stuff in our life. That's just, you know, it's almost like reading a fairy tale. Tragic, isn't it? Those people in the Bible were real people. And they weren't special people. They were just people. Christians could see God work in their lives as He has worked in the lives of the saints in the Bible if they simply did what God wanted them to do and told them to do. But they won't do that. They don't trust Him. And unfortunately, in most cases, they don't love him either. They do love themselves, they serve themselves, and they trust in themselves. So practically speaking, they're their own God, and they don't really have any use for God. Just like the world has no use for God. So, don't be like that man sitting in front of his television set, eating Cheetos and Doritos, and thinking that if he really wanted to, he could get up and use his flaccid muscles to run a marathon. And he's barely able to walk up the stairs. Hasn't walked more than a block in his life. Don't be like that man. You're going to need the muscles that you have not been exercising. You can't rely on something that you're not using. Start living the New Testament as though it's actually meant to be lived. Novel idea, isn't it? God will make sure, by the faith that he gives you, that you trust him. Because his will require you to trust him. The things that he allows you to have and the things that he doesn't allow you to have, the things that he requires of you, the things that he denies you, will require you to trust in him. But if you choose to do what you want to do, live the way that you want to live, keep the commandments you want to keep when you feel like keeping them, compromise the others, pretend that they're not really meant for you. No, don't ask the Lord, don't seek the Lord for his will, because you already have in your mind what you want to do and you don't want him interfering. Does that sound like a servant to you? Does that sound like a slave of Christ? That sounds like a master to me. Somebody like that doesn't have any need of God. He's already got everything he needs. He's got all the substitutes. But when those substitutes are taken away and he's left with nothing, he'll realize that he made a terrible mistake. Don't let that be you. Choose you this day. The Lord be with you.